Last spring, car factories in India started slowing down. Not because of a strike, not a worker shortage. The problem was a metal most people have never heard of. Until recently, which is controlled by a country 4,000 kilometers away. In April last year, China tightened the tap on rare earth magnets. These are the small, ferociously powerful magnets that spin the motor inside an electric car. Within weeks, car makers in India and across the West were cutting shifts, and some idled their lines completely. One decision in Beijing, and the wheels here stopped turning. Now, here's the strange part. India's best shot at never being squeezed like that again is not buried in a mine. It is sitting in scrapyards, in dead phone batteries, in the spent packs of electric scooters that have already given up. And this week, the city of Delhi quietly made that pile a lot bigger.
You're listening to Nelson John 360. Nelson John 360.
Hello, I'm Nelson John, and welcome to the Nelson John 360 podcast, where I take one big story and turn it all the way around. All right, today, the fight over India's battery graveyard. Why the country that wins the race to recycle dead batteries might just buy back a piece of its independence. And why most people, when they hear about it, walk away with almost exactly the wrong idea. Start with what happened on Monday, yesterday. The Delhi cabinet approved the capital's new electric vehicle policy for 2026, and it is big. Around 15,000 crore rupees in benefits over 4 years. Full waivers on road tax and registration. Up to 30,000 rupees knocked off an electric scooter. More than 30,000 new charging points planned across the city. From 2027, Delhi wants almost every new private vehicle sold to be electric. The goal is clean air, and anyone who has spent a November in Delhi knows just how badly the city needs it. But underneath the celebration sat one quiet objection. As the policy was announced, the Congress opposition raised a single awkward question. What happens to all the batteries? Because every scooter and every car this policy puts on the road carries a lithium-ion battery. And every one of those batteries will one day die. So here's the thing that nobody prints on the poster. A modern EV battery lasts, say, roughly about 8 to 10 years. India already has about 57 lakh electric vehicles registered. That figure comes from the Road Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari, who gave it to the parliament in December. Push that forward with policies like Delhi's and the government's own ambition to run tens of millions of EVs by 2030. Now, do the simple math here with me. Electric boom, India's electric boom really took off after 2020. 8 to 10 years on from there lands you in the early 2030s. So the real flood of dead car batteries is not yet here. It's coming just after this decade closes. What is piling up right now is the smaller stuff, worn out scooter and rickshaw packs, factory scraps, old electronics. The government's own think tank, Niti Aayog, still expects something like 128 gigawatt hours of recyclable batteries by 2030. To make that real, 1 gigawatt hour is roughly the batteries you would pull from about 20,000 electric cars. So we're talking about a mountain of spent power. And India today can process barely a silver of it. And this is where the real story stops being about waste and starts being about power, real power. When you buy an electric scooter in India, you are mostly buying China. Look at the numbers. India's imports of lithium-ion cells jumped 64% in a single year to nearly 42,000 crore rupees. That is Commerce Ministry's data, reported this week by Business Today. China supplied 84% of it. For the rare earth magnets in the motor, India leans on China for 85 to 95%. Step right back, and the International Energy Agency found that for 19 of the 20 most strategic minerals on Earth, China is the number one refiner, controlling around 70% of all the processing. That's not an accident. China spent 40 years building it. Back in 1992, Deng Xiaoping reportedly said the Middle East has its oil and China has rare earths. He saw the leverage coming, and in 2025, Beijing showed it would use that grip like a weapon. First, the April curbs on magnets that slowed those Indian factories. Then in October, China widened the control to the heart of the battery itself, the cathode and anode materials, where for some pieces it holds more than 95% of the world's supply. Put it out plainly, China can decide how fast India's clean energy dream moves, or whether it moves at all. So what can India actually control? Not the mines, because most of the lithium simply is not here. Not the cell factories. Well, not yet. The one piece India can build on its own soil from materials already inside the country is recycling. Pull the metals out of dead batteries, clean them up, feed them back into new ones. People call it urban mining. The idea is simple. Stop digging, start recovering. And let me clear up one thing right away because, this is the assumption most people make. They picture this as empty territory, like nobody has worked out who recycles these batteries yet. Well, that's not true. India already has a crowded, well-funded field. Loham out of Greater Noida, it holds an estimated 70% of the market and has raised over $120 million. Atero in Uttarakhand has tie-ups with nearly 90% of India's car makers, and 8,300 crore rupees expansion plan, and one eye on a stock market listing. Add Batex, Rubamine, Exico, and a dozen more. People have been chasing this for years. The race has already started. But here is where I will be straight with you. The economics right now are brutal. The price of lithium has crashed almost 90% in 2 years as China flooded the market. The recovered battery powder that recyclers sell has fallen so low that some of them are losing money on every ton. And it gets worse for India specifically. Most Indian scooters use a battery chemistry called LFP. It is cheap and safe, which is great, but it contains no cobalt or no nickel, and the two metals that actually make recycling pay. So you are left chasing the lithium in a market where lithium is dirt cheap. For all the noise, India still recycles only about 1% of its dead lithium batteries into usable material. The bottleneck was never the idea. It is collection, economics, and enforcement. So here's my take. Let's stop thinking of this as a quick way to get rich. It's not that, at least not yet. And maybe not ever in the simple way it gets sold. Think of it as an insurance policy. The point of recycling for India is not to get rich off scrap, and it's to never watch again its factories fall silent because a minister in Beijing signed a piece of paper. Recyclers like Atero claim that one day recovered material could meet 60, even 70% of India's need for metals like cobalt and lithium. I would take that with a healthy pinch of salt because it is a sales pitch from people who profit if you believe it. But even half of that would change India's place in the world. And that is the real price here. Not money, not leverage. And the government clearly sees it that way. The new National Critical Minerals Mission, worth over 16,000 crore rupees, treats recycling as a national security tool, sitting right alongside mining. The battery waste management rules forces companies to take their old batteries back, with real targets sitting to bite from 2027. The pieces are being laid. But here is the part Delhi's shiny new policy completely skipped. You cannot keep pushing more and more batteries onto the road and stay silent about where they go to die. That Congress objection, politically annoying as it was, happened only to be the right question. A clean air policy that ignores its own waste is not finished. It's a half plan. So what would tell us India is getting serious? 3 things. 1, whether Atero actually lists on the market. That will be the first real test of whether this is a business or just a beautiful theory. 2, whether those 2027 recycling rules get teeth or quietly get watered down. And 3, the price of lithium. If it stays in the basement, this whole industry survives only because the state is holding it up. If it climbs, the money side of this story suddenly gets a lot more serious, a lot more real. Now here's where I land. The next time you see an electric scooter glide past, silent and clean, remember there are those 2 stories sitting inside it. The one we love to tell about clean air and a green future, and the quieter one about who owns the metal in its heart and what we will do with that metal when it dies. So if this gave you a new way to look at that scooter, do me one favor, share it with one person who would find it interesting. Follow the show so the next one finds you. Hit like because it genuinely helps us more than you think. I'm Nelson John and this was the Nelson John 360 podcast. I'll see you in the next one.